Hey, what's up? Welcome back to the channel, or if you're new here, welcome in. I'm really glad you're here. This is the place where we slow things down, keep it real, and just talk about life, the random moments, the messy situations, the funny stuff, the lessons, and everything in between. I like to think of this space as a chill little corner of the internet, where we can laugh at the crazy stuff we've been through, reflect on the deeper parts, and maybe learn a thing or two along the way. Every story's a little different. Sometimes it's about relationships, sometimes it's friendships, sometimes it's just stuff that makes you go, what even was that? If that sounds like your kind of vibe, go ahead and hit that like button, it really helps the channel out. And if you're feeling it, subscribe so you don't miss the next story time. I post regularly, and trust me, there's always something new to share. First story: I am 18. Just found out that my father, M42, baby trapped my mother, F40, with me. I grew up thinking my mother had abandoned us. That is what he always told me. He told me my mother packed up and left us when I turned 2 years old. I grew up to resent and hate her. Mainly because I saw how my father was working super long hours to make ends meet. I hated how my grandma basically had to raise me. When I would ask her about my mother, my grandma painted a picture of a bitter, spiteful, hateful, spoiled, entitled woman. I felt very justified in my anger and hate for her. That's what my family told me, and I had absolutely no reason to doubt them. A few weeks ago I found her on social media while at my boyfriend's house. And I was so mad. She was out there living her best life. She's a cook, chef, in a Michelin star restaurant. She travels, has a huge apartment, and apparently is married to a gorgeous man. In a fit of rage, I DM'd her cruising her out for abandoning me to live her frivolous life, and that karma would come to her. She obviously saw it. Instead of going off on me, she just asked me to meet her, and that she felt like I had a right to express my anger to her in person, and that she owed me as much. I was starstruck, because my father said she never stood for the consequences of her actions. Without telling anyone, I agreed. She invited me to this amazing restaurant. She paid an Uber for me and everything. It was very awkward at the beginning. I kept berating her. I was so angry. I cried a little. She just sat there and took it all in. I then asked her why she abandoned me. She then asked, this is all paraphrased, do you really want to know the whole story? It is not nice and you will not like it. I am ready to be the bad guy in your head forever and keep my distance. I just kept pressing her. And then she told me the real story. This is again paraphrased and to my best recollection. She told me that my father and she met shortly before ending uni. At that time my mother had said she did not want to stay in uni town. A few months after dating, my father told her that his landlord was evicting him because the apartment was needed for immediate family use. She offered him to stay while he found something else. Months passed and he was not doing anything. Then she got a job offer in another country. She told my father that he could take over her apartment or come with her. They had this huge fight where my mother told him that she was not ready for the type of commitment he wanted. She wanted different things in life than him, and that as much as she loved him, that they weren't compatible. They stayed living together, and then one day she found out she was pregnant. She told me honestly that she was thinking of not having me. She did not feel ready to be a mom at 22. She did not feel maternal feelings. She said she was already struggling with depression and late-diagnosed ADHD. My father convinced her to have me. He said he would take me because he had a right to me. That he would go after her because that baby was also his. So she had me. She said that the time after birth was really bad. My father was dragging out the legal procedures. He refused to vacate the home. My mother said that while she felt love for me, and that there were moments when she felt overjoyed, it was overshadowed by huge waves of suicidal ideation. She was scared that she was gonna hurt me. She also showed me some of the court documents of that time that backed up her claims. In the end, she was so desperate that she agreed to stay with my father if he agreed to be the main caretaker. He did, but only half-assed. My mother then told me that it got so bad that she tried to commit suicide around my second birthday, after a particularly nasty fight where my father admitted to having tampered with her birth control. She showed me the papers of the involuntary 72 hours commitment and the legal documents, where she was found unfit to be a parent. Afterward I felt nauseous after all that. I would have not believed her, hadn't she brought so much evidence with her. She then asked me what I meant in my message that we were struggling. I told her that we were not exactly rich, and that I was struggling to come up with the money to go to university in another city. She was bewildered and asked me what my father had been doing with the monthly payments she was making. I told her that we don't receive that money. Then she took out another stack of papers. Guys, she is sending child support every month. It is almost 3K every month. Edit. She is court mandated to pay me 1.5K. She doubled the payments out of her own will. She doesn't have to pay that amount. She wants to. She was very concerned about this and told me she would talk to her lawyers ASAP to transfer the money to me directly. In the end, she apologized to me. She is very sorry to have put me through this. She was very sorry for not being stronger, and she was very sorry for letting me grow up the way I did. She was crying. I was crying. She then told me to take my time. She would contact me again regarding the payments, and that it was up to me if I wanted to see her again. That she couldn't be the mother I wanted, but the least she could do is help me with anything that I need. I hugged her. I cried. She cried. I boxed up my food and she got me another Uber home. At home, my father was not there. So I went straight to bed and left early the next morning and am staying with my boyfriend. My whole life is a lie. Just found records of domestic violence from my father, 42F, to my mother, 40F. My M18, life keeps crumbling. The 12th of July, 2022. I have found out that my mother never really abandoned me because she didn't want me, but because she tried to commit suicide and was deemed unfit to parent, and that my father basically baby-trapped my mother with me. After the post yesterday, I went snooping even more because I do not trust my father anymore. I found records of domestic abuse perpetrated by my father toward my mother. He was charged but never ended up going to jail, or did a very reduced sentence. This would have been when I was 2 after my mother was committed. I also found a restraining order filed by my mother against my father. It was so much worse than what she said. He did not only abuse her emotionally, but also physically. I am feeling so disgusted. I could just scream. I returned to my boyfriend again. My father has been calling a lot asking why I had spent so much time away from home. And my excuse is a family emergency of my boyfriend. After yesterday's, I wanted to confront him, but now I don't feel safe. Any advice? Caught my father, M42, in a lie. Should I, M18, just cut my losses and cut him off from my life? The 15th of July, 2022. My life was put upside down for the past weeks. TLDR is that I found out my mother did not abandon me, but tried to commit, and was deemed an unfit parent due to her mental issues. She was giving my father 3K a month as child support. 1.5K was court-mandated. 1.5K was out of her own will. I also found court records of my father being charged with physically assaulting my mother on more than one occasion. So after staying for a while with my boyfriend, I decided to go home for a while because I wanted to get my legal documents and all of that. My father came back home and we talked a bit. I just asked him, by the way, did my mother never send you child support for me? My father just scoffed theatrically and went on this rant about how courts are always accessible to the mother and how they told him he couldn't expect anything from her and so on. He pulled that whole story of him begging her for money when he didn't have enough money for my school supplies and her turning him down. I know this is a lie. My mother kept itemized records of all her money wires to my father. Every month since she had a job. Meaning for over 15 years she has sent my father money. In the beginning, she sends him 400, then 600, then 1,000, and eventually 3,000. Then he kept talking, saying how hard it was. That he wished he would have gone after her more. But that the courts were not in his favor. He told me how even now we were barely able to go paycheck to paycheck. His rant was surreal. After he left to go God knows where, I went snooping through his room where I found a stack of cash in his sock drawer. It was over $5,000 crammed into the back of his drawer. Things are getting worse. I feel so weird. I cannot describe the ick. I have all my documents and wrote my mother so we could maybe meet again. Should I just ghost my father? Update. I am 18. Just found out that my father, M42, baby trapped my mother, F40, with me. The 26th of July, 2022. Caution very long what has happened in my other two posts. I found court documents that confirmed that my mother had been physically assaulted by my father. Upon further research, I determined that my father spent 3 months in jail for the assault. That was when I was 4 years old, which would explain why I do not remember anything at all about that. I met with him a few days ago. This is when I asked again about child support. Posing the question like, hey Dad, did my mother never give you any child support for me? He denied ever receiving child support, citing that courts will go easy on women. That same day I snooped around and found a stack of cash with over $5,000 in one of his drawers. I did have the data to the household account, but the $3,000 monthly payment was never figured in that account. Also, I scouted for withdrawals for more than $100 at a time that maybe could explain the $5,000 stack, which was only composed of $100 bills. Nada, some background. Until posting here, I never realized that my relationship with my father was not normal. I explain more about his behavior in the previous, but as a bit of an explanation, he made me his accountant from a very young age. I had to keep track of expenses, etc. And so many times I was having panic attacks because we would not make it to the end of the month with the money on the account. So many times my father would berate me if I ever asked to go out, e.g. to the cinema, because we couldn't afford it. When he would allow me to go out, it was always attached to an endless list of requirements that were absurd. Again, let's take the example of the cinema. I would ask him a week prior and he'd say yes, but that I had to clean the house, drive grandma to the doctor, pick up XY, leave some dinner ready for me, and many more. So that if I did not complete one single detail, like not bringing out the trash, he would pick up a fight with me, making me feel guilty, and thus staying home. He would constantly make me feel worthless, saying I would not survive in uni, that I was not talented to do this, that I was not good enough to do that. He is extremely reactive. One time in the car I teased him that I would be for the other football, soccer, team tonight, and he kicked me out of the car, making me walk home alone. There are so many more examples. I thought it was merely my fault, or that other dads were also like this. But suffice to say, it is not normal. What happened now? I did in fact contact my mother after finding all this out. I confronted her with the newfound information. She admitted that it was quite bad, and she did fear for her life. My father apparently had friends in law enforcement that were following my mother and making her life impossible, giving her tickets for the most inconsequential stuff, pulling her over for random controls, everything possible to intimidate her or to find dirt on her. My father put her to the ultimatum of just singing over without a fight, or he would make her any my life impossible. My mother told me that he had been abusing her since I was born, as early as 1 week postpartum. So when my father uttered the ultimatum, she felt hopeless, and just tried to end it. It did not work, and after she was released my father served her and battled for full custody. Because she was deemed unfit to parent, it was really easy for him. She told me the court actually went pretty hard on her. About a year after that, my mother attempted to establish visitation with me. She reached out to my father, who invited her over. He told her that she could be in my life if she agreed to be together with him again. My mother told him no, and then a fight ensued. That was the night he assaulted her. He assaulted her so badly that she wound up in the hospital. In the hospital, seeing her wounds, they had to report it. So he was sentenced to a year, but only served 3 months. At that time, custody of me was with my grandmother. My father resumed custody of me at the time of being released. I was able to corroborate all this after reaching out to my aunt, who has not spoken to our family in 10 years. My Aunt Mia basically documented my mother's abuse. She took pictures of her bruises, and recordings of my father screaming and threatening her. She told me that she testified against my father in court, and that she could just back up everything my mother said, because he was the same to her. I insisted on seeing the pictures and recordings. My aunt was resistant to this. But a part of me did not want to accept that this was reality. So yeah, my father is a fucking monster. I told my mother about everything monetarily that I had found out. She said that legally there was not much we could do. But she spoke with her lawyer, and seeing as I am 18, she started the motion to start transferring me my child support money. She said that for the time being she would give me 1.5k monthly, while she still had to pay my dad the money. As soon as the process is greenlit, I am going to get it all. She also agreed to pay for my matriculation fees, as well as for the deposit and first month's rent of an apartment in my uni town, so that I could be as independent as possible. For now, I have only sent in my applications a couple of weeks ago, so I should get any news on that front latest by September. We decided that confronting my father was not a good idea. For neither of us. So we decided on telling my father that my boyfriend's parents invited me to vacation. But he does not know I am gay. So we plan on telling him that this is the last vacation to say goodbye to my friend. I have talked to my boyfriend and his parents. They did not even hesitate and immediately said yes. They now know everything and support me 100%. So my mother and his parents are sending us for 2 weeks to a nearby country where they have a summer house. I told my father about the plans, and he said that as long as his parents were paying, that it was all right. He did tell me that I had to help him with a million things before leaving again. So I am already seeing a fight on the horizon, but I have managed to get all my important documents and open a bank account thanks to my aunt's help. So on Thursday, I am officially leaving for 2 weeks, and I pray things to get resolved beforehand. I am taking all important stuff with me already in case things go south fast. Anyways, this has been an extremely difficult time. And I feel overwhelmed with this all. So please don't reach out probing me for an update. I will update when I feel it is right and when I feel like I can do it. This has been very helpful. Without you guys, I would have never noticed that I had also been abused and that there is most likely more to the story. Even more than what I have found out. It has also proven very therapeutic to write this all down in a somewhat orderly fashion. So thank you so much for all the support and advice. New update. I am 18. Just found out that my father, M42, baby trapped my mother, F40, with me. 18 August 2022. I am not in the US. Don't speculate with US laws and standards. They do not apply. I am the original OP. I saw that you, Allergamics, had posted a recompilation of my posts on this sub, and I figured this is the best way to reach out to all of you who have written me and are curious as to what is happening. This is the link to the original thread here. With all the older updates, things went south fast. The Wednesday night, the night before I left, my father picked up a fight with me for not taking his car for an oil change. He called me everything under the sun, saying I am selfish and a brat, that he raised me better. He then had my grandmother come and say how disappointed they were. That I was clearly not mature enough to leave for a holiday, let alone move away for university. They held me awake till 4 a.m. under the guise of a family meeting, which was basically just a reprimanding session of all I had done wrong in my life. And to be honest, I was demoralized. I was ugly, crying and feeling awful. Thankfully my boyfriend called because I had not answered several texts of his. He helped me transport all my stuff while my father was sleeping, and I left without telling him bye. He texted me around 1 p.m., and my father was acting like everything was normal. So the 2 weeks passed very quickly. I got a mail that I got into a university that has a very good program for political science. So I accepted and put myself on the waiting list for university accommodation. Then shit blew up. My mother suddenly stopped giving my father half the money. So she was only paying what she was legally obligated to pay. My father was losing it. He began calling, screaming at me to come home at once. Then calling me, crying to tell me that the bitch of my mother had reappeared and was suing him, and now we did not have enough money to pay for the mortgage. I called my mother to ask if she was actually suing him. She said no and said that she had just gone through the courts to start paying me directly instead of my father, which was granted. Then my grandma started texting me, saying I had to come home right away because my father had had a cardiac arrest. Obviously, I went back home with my boyfriend, only to find our house in literal shambles. There were beer cans, string liquor stuff, and cigarettes everywhere. Everyone that was betting that my father was using all the money on drugs and lavish stuff. Hey, congratulations. You were right. Apparently, when I left, my father decided to have a huge party. He invited all these friends that he made in fancy bars. I know that because the lady that was in the hospital with my dad, his GF apparently. She did not know about me, she kept talking about our house as his summer residence. I asked her a few questions. She answered. She's actually pretty sweet, but put off by my father now that she knows how he lied. So apparently my father would take the 3K and spend them almost fully on appearing to be richer. He had bought some clothing pieces that were high quality. He would hang out in these fancy hotel sky lounges where he met his GF. Then would take her and her friends out to expensive restaurants and clubs. She did not fully admit it but insinuated that they did coke often during those outings. Much like the party that leads my dad to OD. It was not only cocaine that they did. I also think an amphetamine. Anyway, I thanked her and told her that the money was not my father's and she had been lied to. She stayed till my father came to and we could bring him home. Which is when she dumped him. And then I broke it to him. I was leaving. He lost his shit. He punched me. He broke my nose. I was really afraid. He was not even fully recovered. In the hospital, I told the nurse how it happened and the police got involved. My mother took me in the very next day. She is helping me with all the legal things regarding my father. She helped me move out. Helped me move cities. It all happened very, very fast. My boyfriend has been staying over because I am very afraid. My father has been blocked, but I have been getting threatening emails. So that is that. It is good and bad. Edit to answer FAQ. Why did my mother not take me in if my father was so abusive? I explained it already in the last posts. But TLDR, she had lost her rights due to her trying to commit suicide. It did not get better as my father and his friends in law enforcement and the judges in our small town are heavily biased toward against women. How did you stumble upon so many documents so conveniently? I didn't. I very sought out those documents. I reached out to Mia myself and insisted in her showing me what she had. None of this was perchance. I have sought out every single document. They are available to the public. Plus, if you know what you are looking for, you will find them easily by going through your parents' files. This was not convenient. This was hard work. If you are 18, why is your mom still paying CS? Here you are legally entitled to CS, and governmental CS, till you finish university, or until you reach your 25th birthday. Are you gonna sue your father for back payment? No. That would not be of any help. It would be extremely hard to prove that he blew it all. In the end, I was fed and clothed, and I had a place to stay with heat, electricity and internet, and running water. It would take too long, and not be good for anything but revenge. My mother is terrified of him, and I am not keen on seeing him. We are gonna pursue a restraining order, and are documenting all his mails and contact attempts. Someone pointed out to keep an eye out for my father opening accounts or credits in my name. We are looking into protecting ourselves in that area. Get a firearm? No. It is not legal nor makes any sense. How come your mother had a lawyer on retainer so conveniently? She didn't. My first post was well over a month ago. My mother reached out to a lawyer shortly after to transfer my CS from my father directly to me in a very clean-cut way. Since then, that lawyer has recommended us to another firm that is taking our case, everything about school and university. I am not on a waiting list for what I am gonna study. I am on a waiting list for the dorm. Till then, I am staying with my BF in a long-term Airbnb in the city. School starts in October, not next week. Again, I do not live in the US. Update post for you guys, 10 October 2022. The post was deleted, but the publication was rescued in a comment. I am Alex's boyfriend. Alex's father attacked him on September 19th. He almost passed. Yesterday, he was finally moved from the ICU into a standard room. Legal procedures against his father have been brought up, so I cannot disclose anything. I will update you if anything changes. Alex's health. I am finally free. My father died and I feel no sadness. The 28th of June, 2023 final update. My father died in the midst of our lawsuit. He had brutally attacked me because I was going to leave him, and the CS checks that he had been blowing on drugs and women would stop with my departure. Last year my whole world crumbled when I found out that my mother had not left us. My father had abused her and made it impossible for her to take me. He has made my life absolutely miserable. I have detailed this over the past few months here. After I was let out of the hospital, my mother and I got two amazing lawyers. One for the assault case and the other for the misappropriation of the money. The process for the CS case was quick. He had to pack back 50% of the money given to him in the past 3 years to me directly. No further fines. However, the assault case spiraled. It was found out that he was going to attempt to plead not guilty in the case of temporary insanity. He had detailed his plan to get away with this to his GF, who is not an awful human, and showed the police what she had. So it went from assault to attempted murder. With his GF leaving him owing a bunch of money, looking at a hefty prison sentence, and no more money to bail himself out, he took his life on Friday. I was numb the whole week. But today the realization washed over me. I am finally free. I don't have to look over my shoulder, I don't flinch when I hear steps, I don't have anxiety while checking my phone. I am free. I am finally free. Second story: Ita for punching my brother in the face on my dad's birthday over his comments to my pregnant wife. 36M, and expectant father of a baby girl in about a month. My wife Riley, 35, and I have been together since our junior year of college. Our life together is amazing, but a little over 3 years ago, my wife had a stillbirth. It was hard for me, but I think the pain of losing our son was 100x worse for her, since she was the one who carried him for so many months. Luckily, things are going well with this pregnancy so far, and we are thrilled but obviously a bit nervous that something could go wrong again. Riley has nightmares and told me she's having trouble getting excited about this baby because she's terrified things will go wrong. Some context is that I'm the oldest of 3 and have a younger sister named Ella, 33F, and a younger brother named Josh, 30M. Josh has always been a good kid and was the golden child growing up. I honestly don't know what happened, but he did a totally 180 and started partying to the point where he flunked out of law school. Josh tried acting after that, and when that didn't work out, he got a job teaching at a private high school. But Josh didn't get his contract renewed for this year's school term, and he and his wife Julia are now living with my parents rent-free. According to my mom, Josh drinks all day and hasn't made any real efforts to find another job. He's also incredibly rude and bitter towards everyone, and routinely blames my parents for why his life isn't going well. Everyone in my family adores Riley, except for Josh. My wife is an attorney and went to a great law school, and I think Josh is jealous of that. He makes a lot of passive-aggressive comments about her family's wealth, i.e. his nickname for her is Princess, and loves to talk about how her job is just defending sociopaths for no money. She's a federal public defender. For a while, I called out on his comments as cruel and ridiculous on the spot, but Riley asked me to stop because she didn't think it was worth the aggravation. She always likes to turn the other cheek and make the other person look horrible by not reacting at all. Riley has 3 brothers and is used to rolling with the punches, so the comments don't bother her all that much. But they drive me crazy, and I've had multiple conversations with my brother about how he treats my wife. He always says he's just joking, and that he likes Riley. My mom has also asked him to stop being so rude to Riley, and he always says he will, but it hasn't gotten any better. Yesterday was my dad's birthday, and my parents invited our entire family over for dinner. Josh seemed drunk when we arrived, and he had several glasses of champagne during dinner. Julia kept asking him to stop drinking, but he brushed her off. By the end of dinner, he was slurring his words and almost passed out, he was so drunk. At one point, my mom asked Riley how her pregnancy was going. Riley said things were going well, and my mom got teary and said she's thinking of her and knows things will go well this time. Josh then blurted out, "It can't go worse than it did the last time she was pregnant." He started laughing hysterically, and I can't describe the shock and horror on my wife's face when he said this. I told Josh his comment was not okay, but instead of shutting up, he continued to laugh and said the only way it could go any worse is if she died too. He then asked me if I'd rather have Riley or the baby die, if it was up to me. Everyone was yelling at him, and I lost my shit. I pushed him off his chair and punched him in the face. My brother-in-law, Ella's husband, and my dad had to pull me off him. Riley and Julia were both crying, and I told my parents we were leaving because I couldn't be in the same room as Josh. I got a call from my mom on the way home, and she told me that she kicked Josh out because she was so disturbed by what he said to Riley. Last I heard they're staying with Julia's sister, but I don't give a shit to be honest. Riley, who usually isn't bothered by Josh, has been crying all day. She says that it was the cruelest thing anyone has ever said to her, and that Josh must hate her if he could so easily joke about her and or our child dying. It's honestly the most upset I've seen her during the pregnancy, and that's saying a lot because of how emotionally difficult it's been on both of us. This morning, I got an angry call from Riley's older brother Ryan, who is incredibly protective over her. Riley called and told him what happened after we got home, and he helped me comfort her. Ryan asked how I could subject my pregnant wife to my idiot brother, and told me he never wants to see Josh again. I told Ryan I was sorry, and that I didn't think he'd go so low, but Ryan hung up and won't return any of my calls. Riley has told him it's not my fault, and that she's the one who always asks me to ignore Josh, but Ryan is still understandably upset with me. I also feel like I failed Riley by not putting a stop to this sooner, even though I never would imagine he'd joke about her stillbirth or something happening to her during childbirth. I also got a call from my mom telling me that Josh didn't even remember what he said this morning and felt horrible when Julia told him. He's agreed to go to rehab and says he's had a drinking problem and serious depression for a while now. He also was sexually abused as a child by a friend's dad, and I don't want to diminish the seriousness of that, but he and my mom both point to that a lot to excuse his behavior. I told my mom I don't care, because I don't ever intend on being in the same room as Josh again. My mom said that she doesn't expect us to forgive him yet since she herself hasn't, but she hopes I'll leave the door open for us to have a relationship since the Josh we saw last night wasn't the real Josh. She talked about how he's a good person, but has been through a lot in life, and so we have to support him. She also said I didn't help matters by punching him, since it just upset Riley more, and it's never okay to resort to violence. Basically, she thinks Josh owes Riley an apology, but I owe Josh an apology for hitting him, and my dad an apology for ruining his birthday. I haven't spoken to my wife about any of this since I don't want to put any more stress on her, but I don't plan on apologizing or even thinking about letting her near Josh again. I don't like violence, but I don't feel bad for punching my brother at all. I also know he has a drinking problem, and that he probably wouldn't have said those things sober, but it was still unforgivable in my eyes. Ita for escalating things, and for not being open to forgiving my brother after he gets help. Any advice would be appreciated. Alright y'all, that's the story. Hope you had fun hanging out with me and hearing all the wild details. If you vibed with it, laughed a little, or just enjoyed the ride, go ahead and hit that like button. And hey, if this is your kind of content and you want to hear more stories like this, make sure to subscribe. I've got plenty more on the way. Thanks for watching, take care of yourself, and I'll catch you in the next one.